most interesting year in racing, perhaps no standout champion in 1993. Well, we've saved the best for last. Keith Hillier has joined us from Perth. How are you, Keith?
I'm well, thank you, Bruce. And we saw some great racing here too at Ascot yesterday with the local mare Palacious, proving that she's a worthy Perth Cup favourite with a great win in the Cox Stakes.
Yes, it looked a very competitive race, Keith. And from an Eastern Stakes point of view, what about the runs of Varro's Last and Diamond Heist?
Varro's Last was a great performance to finish third, Bruce, and Diamond Heist, well, he drew barrier 18 and he didn't get much closer to the rail throughout the race. He was still boxing on 200 metres out, but that wide run took its toll. Gerald Ryan was satisfied with the run. He does have a big weight drop for the Cup.
Yes, he looks hard to beat. Let's go to the Cox Stakes yesterday and see the concluding stages.
Cathros making ground, Malavara, anniversary model, well back to Sky Clipper, Frivolous Boy, last of all, straightening up, Subituate again, coming at Sursum Sooty, into the clear, Prime again, Varro's Last and Rare Brave, Diamond Heist, and now coming high well is Palacious at the 150, Prime again, Subituate have got to Sursum Sooty, but here comes Palacious, she's coming high with a great run, she ducked in, Prime again, Palacious got up, Palacious has won the CB Cox Stakes from Prime again, Cathros or Varro's Last, tight for third.
Should be a pretty good guide to the Perth Cup. Keith, the Villiers yesterday, the other big race around Australia, triumph for Lee Freedman, and Larry Cassidy, who got a lucky ride in Cabora.
Yes, he had the choice of rides, and his manager, Ron Dufficy, went the right way for Larry. It was a mount that had been rejected by Damien Oliver and by Gavin Eads. So Larry, once again, making the right choice, or on this occasion, Bruce, having it made for him.
And Keith, he's got a tremendous record in mile races now at Randwick. Let's go to the concluding stages of a very thrilling Villiers.
Into the straight in the Villiers, the leader Safari, Golden Step as second, Guards Time on the fence, Maxify on the outside, then Mighty Tango, Destroyer's Image, Red for Go, Rough Rider, Pharaoh with nowhere to go, Thrifty Reserve is pushing into the clear, followed by Monsieur and Carson's Cash and Cabora. At the 200, Zafari's in front, Mighty Tango got to second, he's looking a danger, followed by Guards Time, Red for Go, Cabora, and Jack Attack is getting right through along the fence. There are horses all over the place. Cabora, Square the Circle is jumping out of the ground. It's too late, and Cabora wins the Villiers from Square the Circle, who came from second last, and Pharaoh.
And again, that could be a very good guide for the Doncaster in the autumn. Keith,
well, it has to be, Bruce. 138.8, it was the record, so I think you're spot on there. That was a good Doncaster guide.
And some good runs behind him. Keith, just reflect for a moment. I know you're getting a little bit older. Think back to 1993. I'll give you a minute or two as we go back and look at the highlights of this year. In the long history of the great race, Vintage Crop's victory was remarkable and historic. The Chestnut sprint finish was thrilling, and his win for Ireland was a win for Australian racing. The Melbourne Cup had achieved an international profile unobtainable through promotion and prize money alone.
The 300, Tiago Nickel linked in front of Freddie Boy. 3 away, Vintage Crop starting to storm home from Tennessee Jack. Tiago Nick in front. Vintage Crop is storming home on the outside. Vintage Crop on the outside grabs Tiago Nick and Mercator. And Vintage Crop has won the Melbourne Cup by 3 lengths to Tiago Nick and Mercator. Then Great Village flashing home for fourth.
He's a good horse, and my worry was that we lost a bit of weight, and with the extreme rain came last night, I was a bit worried, but Mick gave him a lovely ride, and, you know, that's why we're here.
The Cup had many sequels, most notable the response from Australia's leading trainers. But you still feel the Vintage Crop was very well handicapped?
Oh, well, if you had the weights that came out after the Irish at Ledger, I think we all believe that the horse would have received 4 to 5 kilos more. And I don't think that's unreasonable in assuming that.
The race for the greatest horses, the Cox Plate, lacked the drama and uncertainty recent classics have provided. The Weight for Age Championship was won by a worthy winner, the Phantom Chance, but it was a clinical victory in comparison to a Kingston Town or a superimposed lunge to the line. This chestnut will have to come back and win the Cox Plate again before we can declare him a legend.
But it's the Phantom Chance for the WS Cox Plate. He's racing clear. The Phantom Chance wins it. Over a length to Silver. Golden Sword, I think, may have run third.
Fra in the Caulfield Cup, Mahogany in the Derby, Golden Sword over a mile, and the ageless Kiwi, the Phantom, were others to star in the spring.
Well, as Naturalism, and Fra is now in the clear. The Phantom hit the front with 200 to go, and the Phantom is nicely clear in the final stages. Naturalism down the outside, running on Solbit, followed by Fra, and now Tristolite and Viand across, but the Phantom will bolt in. The Phantom wins very easily. Second home is Fra, third is Naturalism.
But for me, the most memorable contest was the Caulfield Stakes. The desperate drive to the post and the battle for supremacy between three mighty horses was unforgettable.
And the Phantom Chance are locked together there, wide apart. The Phantom racing a bit greenly to the inside. The Phantom Chance takes the lead. Naturalism flying home. Naturalism in the centre, coming at those leaders. Naturalism has won the Caulfield Stakes, close for second and third.
Caulfield shook with excitement that day. Later that night, the sport was shaken and saddened with the news of Ken Russell's tragic death following a fall at Rose Hill. Earlier this year, another jockey, Darren Beedman, had escaped serious injury in two separate and shocking falls in Hong Kong. A fortnight ago, he was rubbed out for 9 months after being charged with not doing his best. Beedman is appealing, as is trainer Lee Friedman, who was outed for 2 months on Melbourne Cup Eve. His international stayer Runyon had returned a positive swab in September. That appeal will be heard tomorrow.
Down the outside, Runyon hit the front close to home. Runyon won the Craigley from Mannerism, Air Seattle third.
Friedman provided two of the biggest stars from the autumn carnivals in Sydney and Melbourne. Bint Masqué overcame a disjointed preparation to decisively win the famous Golden Slipper Stakes.
Masqué, Mighty Mick drives the filly to the lead, Bint Masqué, and she is straighting them. Look at her go. Bint Masqué coming away to record a brilliant slipper win. Justice prevails down the outside.
A week earlier, his great grey Scalacci completed his third Group 1 victory for the year in the George Rider.
Behind those leaders, Dittman's trying to get between them now. There's a split coming, followed by Welcome Night and Durbridge at the 200. Scalacci clear. Primacy's after him now. Primacy out of the pocket is coming after the grey flash. Scalacci still in front. Primacy can't get to him. Scalacci holding on, and he's run the 1500 all right. Scalacci wins the Rider. Soho Square flew.
Vienna Cross was the stayer of the autumn. He matched Scalacci with 3 Group 1 wins, starting off with the Australian Cup at Flemington.
Viand across, the New Zealand champion hit the front, and the Australian Cup is all over. The Honda Australian Cup goes to Viand Cross.
Viand Cross would go on and be named Horse of the Year. Ironically, the big three from the autumn failed to win a single race between them in the spring. Such is the uncertainty of racing. Just ask those who were at Aintree this year for the famous Grand National.
But when starter Keith Brown, officiating at his last Grand National, tried for a second time, the tape snagged around the legs of several horses and the neck of one of the jockeys. The starter announced the second false start, but 30 of the 39 horses set off. The recall man, stationed 100 yards down the track, had failed to realize what was happening, didn't react, and the horses continued in a race that was void once they'd completed the first circuit.
Without doubt, the most bizarre and incredible story in racing this year, the Grand National from Aintree. Back to you, Keith. Keith, a lot of highlights. I think one of the things that's emerged this year is that we don't have an outstanding champion in this country right now. This time last year it was Naturalism versus Viand Cross. The belt is up for grabs, so to speak.
Yes, I agree, Bruce, and we need one, and maybe if the belt is up for grabs, maybe it will be seized by Mahogany, the Victoria Derby winner. I think that he's probably the most exciting middle to staying distance prospect that we've got around.
And I think one of the good things that's emerging and exciting things, Keith, is that racing's becoming more international. I reckon in 2 or 3 years' time you'll be able to bet on the races at Epsom and the races at Santa Anita and maybe the races at Hong Kong on a regular basis. Can you see this happening?
Yes, I can, because we're already betting, as we did last weekend, on the invitational international races in Hong Kong, and a couple of weeks before that we bet on the Japan Cup. Yes, I think that the changes are going to come thick and fast, and probably, Bruce, when we look back in 5 years' time, we'll be talking about the way things used to be towards the end of '93 and how they are now.
And the Spring Carnival, Keith, remains the very essence of racing, and the Melbourne Cup given a tremendous shot in the arm this year.
Oh, no doubt. Look, after 133 years, for it to be won for the first time by a Northern Hemisphere trained horse, to be won by a horse that was later announced as the European Stayer of the Year, to be won by a trainer who has no peer in Europe, and to be ridden by one of the world's great jockeys. really put the Melbourne Cup on the international scene at the highest level. And the trainer Dermot Weld, in a letter to the BRC, Bruce, has predicted that the Melbourne Cup will become the staying championship of the world. And I think he's right.
Well, I reckon you might be right too. And we don't often agree, Keith, and we never agree with Max Presnell, but we must thank him for his contribution during the year to Wayne Wilson and to Ron. Keith, it's been a pleasure. And when you get back to Melbourne, mate, I'll shout you a water or two.
OK, I look forward to that, and I agree with your comments about my old sparring partner, Max. It's nice to walk around a different city, as I have been in Perth, and people say that they enjoy the segment and they enjoy the bouts that I've had with Max, and I must let you in on a secret, so do I.
Good on you, mate. Keith Hillier, catch up with you. Update next, and Kate's back, and then we close the show.